Okay. And well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 122. That's 122. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and #1 best-selling author of the book Practical Law of Attraction. Align yourself with the manifesting conditions and successfully attract your desires. I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores today. And today I have a very special guest with me, Daniel Mangena. Did I pronounce that right?
Oh my goodness. We didn't have to do the hard G, soft G. You are definitely... Did you hypnotize me and ask me and then make me forget?
Exactly. I'm that good. We'll show you the recording later of all the other stuff you did.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
Now we kind of want to get into a little bit more of a serious mode here because this is a serious
Yes.
story. All right.
Very serious.
So after receiving a late diagnosis of Asperger's and experiencing what can only be described as life-shattering trauma at the age of just 20 years old, Daniel spent the next 7 years struggling to keep these revelations and events from spilling into every area of his life. And as a result of these struggles, Daniel built a simple 4-step system called the Beyond Intention paradigm. And initially, this was built as a lifeline grappling with suicidal thoughts. Beyond Intention was born, transforming Daniel's life from a life of misery to celebration. And through his own struggles, Daniel found a path to lasting joy and purpose, and he wants nothing more than to share the tools that saved his own life. To that end, he lives by this mission statement: to spearhead an evolutionary uplift in universal consciousness by awakening people to the importance of their unique role. That this is already encoded in them by way of deep and often ignored and undervalued passion defined as their dream. Through his motivational speech, Daniel shares his vision of empowerment and joy. The books he has authored, his Do It With Dan podcast series, which is available on all major platforms, regular blogs, published articles, and worldwide workshops have all helped thousands across the globe. His prolific work recently earned him a spot in the Wall Street Journal as a master of success, as seen on Wall Street Journal, MarketWatch, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. He's written books Power of Proximity, Power of Proximity, The Money Game, Stepping Beyond Intention, The Dreamer's Manifesto, and from time to time, he can be found on his website, dreamwithdan.com. And today, Daniel is going to be sharing some of his insights on manifestation success, transformation,
Yay!
and spirituality in business. So welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm like, I want to meet this guy. Who is he? Where can I meet him? What's his number?
You are quite accomplished. I've got some catching up to do with my book writing. That is great. I mean, you've been on all these, medias, and you've been changing and transforming lives. And I'm just like so honored to meet you, to have you back on to have you on the show. I mean, I've met you, I was on your show, but I mean, just
that was great.
Share with our audience, Power of Your Mind, all the things. So let's just kind of let's just dive into it. So I have a version of alignment, but I want to hear, what does alignment mean? What is it that we are aligning to when you talk about alignment?
Well, this all comes down to something I call the flow funnel. And I break down what the flow funnel is and how it's groovy in my book, Stepping Beyond Intention. I think on page 19, if I'm not correct. And what we're looking at is the overall reality expands over a couple of levels of density. What I mean by that is a couple of different ways that we need to engage with it, or that we're invited to engage with it. So we've got our physical reality. We use our five senses for that. We taste, touch, feel, smell. Hopefully not bad smells, but we engage with our senses. Then we have our mental, where we hold our beliefs, we hold our stories, we hold our narratives, the unconscious mindsets there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got our energetic bodies as well, where we hold our emotions and so on and so forth. And when I say align, what I'm talking about is all of those aspects of ourself being aligned with that which we intend to create in our life.
Yeah. So mental, physical, energetic,
All of that good stuff.
and spirit, maybe spiritual and all of that. So just
Because
align through all of our dimensions.
Groups. So we've got the group where, in that wheelhouse, you've got your emotions, you've got your energy, you've got your vibration coming there, your frequency. Then you've got the other group where we've got our stories, our narratives, our beliefs, the unconscious, and so on and so forth. And then we've got the wheelhouse of people, places, and things that happens at a physical level. So this is by no means an exhaustive list. If we went down to it, there'd probably be 1,000 of these things. But generally, I follow the Hermetic teachings kind of thing, that there's generally thoughts, feelings, and actions are spiritual, mental, and physical.
Wow. So let's back up just a little bit. So how did you get started on this journey? I mean, I know that, what I just shared. I mean, you had this, issue with the Asperger's, and then you decided to put this together. But tell us just a little bit more. Let's just dive in a little bit on, how you got from there to writing all these books and creating this process, and just what was it that made you, really get on this path?
So I got into mindfulness and consciousness in my teens.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, I had a mentor who was taking me into the world of consciousness, and I started to learn about all this crazy stuff that we call consciousness. So the power of visualization, the power of the mind, understanding about metaphysics, and getting into the esoterics of stuff and symbology and all that kind of good stuff. And so I was there for a few years. I was learning under him, and then I kind of realized that he was not that groovy a human. And I wasn't really down with everything that was being taught, but the core principles made sense. So I kind of started to go off a little bit my own and do more of my own studies, using what I'd learned as a basis, but starting to kind of forge my own path. Mm-hmm. Then when I had the Asperger's diagnosis, I was 27 when that actually happened. The diagnosis when I was 27. I was so grateful for a lot of what I'd learned from my teacher, because my grasp of the power of my mind was quite strong. So I didn't melt. I was actually celebrating when I had the diagnosis, because a lot of it was a mess. If my sister was here telling stories of how socially awkward I was, it was really bad. I suffered from very, very bad anxiety, like debilitating anxiety, debilitating social anxiety. I would have insomnia at least 2 or 3 times a year, but I didn't know where this was coming from. But when the diagnosis came in, it was the anxiety, the social and general anxiety. So I was able to navigate that and look for solutions rather than problems. This was about halfway into my journey with Beyond Intention, which didn't really become Beyond Intention as a firm thing until I'd been playing with the principles for about 3 or 4 years. And what I was really looking to do was to find a way to back up from the mess I'd made of the model that I was using before, because I had a model before Beyond Intention, which worked until it stopped working. Mm-hmm. That was called Vision, Purpose, Faith, Gratitude. And that was an amalgamation of the work I'd learned from the visualization, the consciousness. It was a lot more esoteric. And the grounding of that was Wallace D. Wattles' work on manifestation. But there were some pieces that didn't make sense, because if something works, then it works all the time. So this had stopped working.
Okay.
much to my dismay. And I was trying to find why it stopped working. The point where everything really came together was in March of 2008. when I finally hit rock bottom, and I was literally sitting there scratching my head trying to work out what's the most effective way to commit suicide and to do so without failing. Because what actually happened is that I'd gotten so lost in the idea of being a failure at something else that the only reason why I didn't just try one of the ideas that came to mind, because I didn't want someone to find me hanging and bring me down, or I cut my wrist the wrong way and then I'd have those scars and everyone would know that I'd failed. So that was literally the only thing that stopped me.
You just didn't want to fail at one more thing,
If I had access to a gun, I definitely would have killed myself, basically.
Oh my goodness.
I'd like research like that you can't.
So thankfully you didn't have the
yeah. Thankfully I was in
access
England
to that.
Get a gun. And so at that point, I accidentally, he says, stumbled on this idea that the only way that I'm going to successfully commit suicide is if I successfully come up with a way to commit suicide. I had to depend on myself. And the back of my mind thought was, well, there's something that links between that and everything that I'm trying to run away from, that I'm the common thread in all of them. It was a faint thought. It wasn't something firm. It was kind of just like, have you ever had one of those thoughts where you dip in and dip out of it? So that was it.
I call those the subtle thoughts. That's
the subtle thoughts.
Yeah, I call those the subtle thoughts. And I think those quiet, subtle thoughts are like the most powerful. I guess your intuition.
I would say that now, looking back, I would say that was probably even my guides kind of nut dropping in and saying, hey, because that was the actual thought. Mm-hmm. That was the actual thought that sent me. I then got obsessed. My little Asperger brain got obsessed with two things.
I've never heard that term, but that makes sense.
That's a Danism. Two things. Number one, what had gone wrong with everything I was doing before, because it was working successfully. So what was wrong with it? So I needed to understand what was wrong. I was a common thread. So what was wrong with me in the application of it? And then number two, how can I make sure that I kill myself successfully? So I wanted to understand that so that I could be a success and then be successful in my endeavor. But then as I went through and started playing with this idea of common denominator theory, which is what became the foundation of Beyond Intention, and then going back and rereading the books that I'd read and going back over things that had come up around that time, The Power of Now was one of the books that I read, and The Secret was popularized around that time, and sort of people were talking about it, but it didn't make sense to me. So why does that not make sense? And then the whole idea of clearing, I came upon Ho'oponopono and the work of Dr. Hugh Len around that time. And then I kind of just forgot about committing suicide, basically. It just kind of just drifted off.
Yeah.
Because I became obsessed with, as soon as I got onto this idea, when I looked at time and that everything's here and now, the point of gratitude became a really big thing, because before, gratitude was something I'd do after. So vision, purpose, faith, gratitude was have a clear vision, act with purpose. Vision, purpose. Have a clear vision, be very purposeful, act with certainty, that's the faith, and then be grateful as things unfold.
This was the original.
This was the original
model.
The original model. But then I saw that I had gratitude the wrong way around. Gratitude is something that we do before, because it's not really before, because everything's here and now.
Yeah.
So the greatest level of certainty is celebrating my reawareness of something that's already here and my ability to create it just by being connected to it. That was a massive, massive, massive.
That is rich.
Thing for me.
Say that again. Say that again. I just being grateful for
the opportunity.
For the opportunity.
What did I say?
It was so rich. It was like I was so in the moment, but it felt so good.
Let me sit back. So I'm connecting back to awareness again of the fact that what I desire is already here. And I can be grateful for the opportunity to experience it because I've already connected to it. And that is a level of certainty that surpasses anything. One of my teachers, Dr. Joe Dispenza, says that grateful is the ultimate state of receivership. And I love that, because if I'm grateful for something here and now, how can I get any more certain than that? How can I
So
get any more
true.
connected to anything than that? And that for me is when manifestation really happens. When we are
Yes.
so aligned with it, we're so certain of it that we can celebrate, not pretending, not faking it, not faking gratitude. Like, oh, I'm so grateful for my $1 million. No, I'm saying, no, I've created it. It's here. It's just waiting for me to see it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
so grateful for this opportunity to create. That for me was when the magic happened. And then I still get, I still get dips of attempted dips down into depression, but I'm resourced now and I've got the tools to ride those waves. But ultimately, beyond intention, the journey into it and now the use and application of it did definitely save my life.
Wow. That's incredible. That's an incredible story.
Thank you.
So where does with the new model, where does intention fit into that? Like, can we be successful without setting an intention to have something?
Well, I think intentions for me are consciously chosen outcomes that we're moving towards. I believe that we're always setting a form of intention. We're always making a request of spirit, of source, of the divine, of consciousness of the universe, because that's what we get. The universe is not a tyrant. It gives us what we're asking for, but often
Mm-hmm.
we're asking at an unconscious level. And as you
Mm-hmm.
well know from your work, generally speaking, the patterns and frameworks within which we make those requests generally aren't what we want. They're not generally expansive. Otherwise, we wouldn't want to create something new in the first place. So an intention is a deliberate choice, a conscious choice in what we're choosing to experience. Can
Wow.
people be successful without it? Yes, if their program's already set up for success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, if you're looking into this kind of material, looking into this kind of world, you have something that you want to change. And if you've been experiencing something up until now, then a conscious intention is going to disrupt that pattern and give you the opportunity to align with something new.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So you teach people how to manifest money. And, that's like gotta be, one of the things that I would say, eh, there's so much energy around money. Some people say it's like wonderful to have a lot of money, and some people say it's the root of all evils, and
Yeah.
having a lot of money, means you're bad. So like, I mean, I love money. Okay,
Thank
I
you.
love money, and I think if more people just got over the whole idea, the whole notion, like if everybody could just say that right now, breathe in, I love money,
Love money.
right?
That's yummy.
That, it could help with so many things, because I think we detract it because we're afraid to, like, I mean, I think a lot of people, the ones that didn't say that right now or have a hard time saying that,
Mm-hmm.
you're deflecting it, and
Mm.
and so anyway, just getting into this whole, notion of teaching people about how to manifest money could be a taboo topic for some people. So I
Yeah.
want to get into it. I want to know why you're teaching people how to manifest money. Like, how did you get into that? Why did you start doing that? And how is that working for people?
Well, it's been really successful.
Yeah.
As of time of recording this, I've got a millionaire and someone who's approaching millionaire. I have someone else that was at 500,000 a year ago. So Lord knows
Yeah.
where he is now. In fact, I've got 2 millionaires actually. I was reminded yesterday I've got two because one of my guys has been doing 1 to 200,000 a month in his business since last year. So
Nice. And where
yeah,
were
so
they?
we've got those.
I mean, do you mind if I ask, like, where were they before they became
Sure.
millionaire
These
with
are all
you?
from zero. So my micro to millions program where I teach this, everybody's account starts at zero. So
Okay.
so when I talk about I've got more than a dozen people in my 6-figure club, they all started at zero. So the whole point of the program is you start an account with zero, and then we see where we can take it. So
Uh-huh. Oh,
when I'm
an
teaching
account,
to,
like a bank account, like you
yeah,
open up a
we help
brand
them
new
set up a
bank
segregated
account.
account, and then over time that will develop into a balance sheet as you start to sort of have your pieces in different places that will develop into a balance sheet. But yeah, you start with a bank account and zero, we have you call it your micro to millions account, and then people share the wins about it and where they're at and the screenshots of the bank balance as it's growing. So it's
I
been,
love that. That is like the real deal. I mean, because there's a
yeah.
lot of people out there that teach people how to make more money, but
Yeah.
you sound like you're really doing it.
Yeah, we're really doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
we had someone, one of the members did she did an update a couple of days ago in our
Yeah.
Facebook group. She joined my program in June. She upgraded to the mastermind in July. And since then, she has physically gotten into her account at over $40,000.
Nice. Oh my goodness. And so now do you in this program, is it all just manifesting like the way that I think of manifest? I mean, well, the way that some people think of manifesting. Some people think of manifesting as just, sitting on your
Click your
beanbag
fingers.
chair and, and saying I'm a millionaire. And
Oh, I'm a millionaire.
I'm a millionaire.
Do you know the funny thing? Can I tell you something, Victoria? This is
Yeah.
one of my pet peeves, and it's actually one of the things one of the reasons why I'm sharing my work the most is to stop the charlatans who I think bastardizing the idea of manifestation by preaching that coswallops. I would say this: that person that tried to sell you a $2,000 or $3,000 program where you're going to sit on your butt and manifest money, how did you hear about it? Did they telepathically transmit that information to you? Did they use manifestation to teleport you into the workshop, or did you see a Facebook ad?
Yeah, they
And did you go to
probably
a website?
they probably had to take some, what's that word
Exactly.
that starts with A?
Asshole. Oh, action. But yeah, they took action. It's like all these people that are selling this nonsensical story actually used a proper business structure in order to sell you that story. And then, like, nobody makes that connection. Now, my tool, the money game that I wrote about in my book, The Money Game, is there a way to manifest without doing anything? Yes. But as much as your principles, when you talk about in the practical law of attraction, there are things that our construct of reality have in place that mean that they need to be in place before we can do so. So, I've had people that my current record for the money game is 75,000 Australian dollars manifested in 2 days. He did nothing, it just showed up. Before that, the record was 27,000 pounds, which is manifested in about 3 days. So do I help people learn how to do the traditional form of money manifestation? Yes. But my question is this: given that it's highly unlikely that you will experience something that you've never witnessed, why are you going to spend the amount of time that it's probably going to take to completely rewire your brain to allow you to experience instant manifestation when we can use alignment in the interim, which is just as fun, and actually have a better life?
Right.
That's all I have to ask. So I will teach people how to increase their manifestation power. Like I said, in fact, you know what? I've had a higher one. One of my Micro-Millionaires members got a $50,000 tax return for taxes they hadn't even filed yet. I'm going to say that again.
Oh my
the taxes that they
goodness.
hadn't filed yet got a $50,000 tax return. We've had people find out that they're beneficiaries of a class action lawsuit that they knew nothing about, that they find out about at the point of payment. We have crazy things happen. We do. But sometimes we can be so caught up in waiting for the quote unquote miracle that we miss the miracles in our life every day. We miss the opportunities in our life every day. And we're not taking any action to receive those miracles that have been given to us because we're waiting for it to come in a specific package. And that, for me, why a lot of people end up looking at universal law, looking at these principles and not having any success, because the success came, but it didn't look like how they wanted it to look.
It's so true. And you never know how these things are going to, when you said the tax thing, I just want to share a very quick story. So last year, I was getting ready, I was, going on my worldwide tour, and it was kind of the scariest thing I ever did, because I had to book all the hotels, had to book all the flights, had to, do all of that before I had a student.
That's faith.
Okay. And so I did it. I mean, I literally, and then the next morning I did that. I finally got it done by midnight, after maybe having a couple drinks, and I wake up in the morning and I'm like a little nauseous. Like, I don't think it was the drinks. I think it was like, oh my God, what have I done? And literally, so the money that I spent, literally within a week, I manifested it back. I got a tax return that I was not expecting from the IRS, and I got a huge order that I was not expecting, for multiple, custom hypnosis CDs, and from one person. It's like, people order custom CDs, but to order 6 of them at a time is unheard of. And so that's all happened within 7 days. And it was like absolutely the universe's way of like stepping back in, and like I manifested all the money that I just spent. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Now I can, I've got to spend more money to market and, do all that.
You
but
halfway.
Still, I was, so it just, that faith, but I had to take the action. I had to actually create the portal for that stuff. Would I have gotten that tax return if I hadn't spent that money? Like, would the IRS have magically? I just think the universe creates these parallel realities to match up with the things that you believe in that moment.
I agree with that. I mean, I'm a certified trainer for a modality called reality transurfing. And the model of reality that Vadim Zeland writes about in his book is that we are all witnessing moment to moment snapshots of information in what he calls, depending on your translation, the space of variations, or the alternative space, which we would say the universe or the quantum field or what have you. But every single moment in time that could ever be, and every variation of it, is a snapshot available in the space of variations. And depending on our thought quality, our energy, and our actions, we will align and experience a different variation of that. So for me personally, I think even if you had done this, but you hadn't done it from a space of faith and you'd done it from a space of fear, you wouldn't have got the receivership that you did.
Yeah.
But because you did step out in faith, you were matched with a snapshot or a series of snapshots from the space of variations that aligned with how you were showing up, with who you were. And that was, do you know what? I know that I've got this. I'm going to be fine. I'm abundant. I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to go and serve. And as a result, the reality that manifested around you matched that thought quality and emotion.
Yeah. And you know what? And unfortunately, the opposite can happen, can happen too.
And most of the time does for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. It happened to me yesterday morning, but I'm back on the good side of that. I learned my lesson.
Brilliant.
I learned patience is a virtue.
Brilliant.
It is. So besides money, and obviously we could just literally talk about that part of what you do for multiple podcasts.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. But are there any other things that that are important in life besides money?
Well, here's a really cool thing. So I teach a principle that I call bleed theory. And
bleed theory. Okay.
Bleed, yeah, BLEED, which invites us to remember that the only separation that exists between us and even these areas of our life are the stories that we tell. So when we lose those stories, the healing that we allow into one area of our life can spread into other areas too. So people that come into Micro to Millions, generally speaking, don't just get money. We've seen health improve. We've seen relationships. We've seen people find love. We've seen people connect with their purpose. We've seen people establish peace of mind or be able to go out and have adventure. Because number one, when you see money for what it is, which is just a medium of exchange, that's it. It can facilitate more choice. That choice creates more freedom, and that mental and emotional freedom allows us to change our thought quality, to change our emotional state, so that we can actually manifest a new reality around us, new people, places, and things. We can open ourselves up to new experiences. So from person to person, the reason why it works will change, but people that come through the program generally don't just find money. They find other things too. And I'm always pushing the point that money was just the gateway to allow me to come and bring you this tool to develop mastery. And that mastery then can be applied to anything. Essentially, here's the funny story. I was obsessed at first when I first started working with people using these principles to create fresh starts for themselves. So I worked with people when I first started my coaching practice, people going through midlife crisis, divorcees, retirees, students that had reached the end of education and didn't really feel aligned with the idea of what they were going to manifest before. So creating a new roadmap, I called it the Ideal Life Blueprint. And that was doing really, really well. Using my principles, I built up a 6-figure coaching business in about 4 months. And that's without sort of harassing people in their inbox and all that other traditional stuff that they tell you have to do. I wasn't niched down. But when I started to teach people about the money game principles, which I did following I did a mastermind in New York a couple of years ago. And then I decided to open up Micro to Millions and I shared the money game. All of a sudden, people flooded. I sold 100 places in a program that was supposed to have 20 people for $1,800 in less than a week.
Wow.
Like 20 places had to become 30. It kept selling out. And I kept
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So when I said, I'm going to teach you how to be a millionaire, everybody signed up. And then I realized, oh, cool. So this is the way that people are going to let me in. And so I told them when they came to the program, I've tricked you. I am going to teach you how to manifest money, but that's not really what the important thing is. The important thing is developing a level of mastery, agency and dominion over your own reality that allows you to create anything that you want. So there are plenty of other things. Money just makes things easier to choose because it's just a medium of exchange.
Yeah, well, and it's just such a logical, analytical thing, money, that allows us to actually, what's the word? Measure. It's a measuring stick. And but to me, it's like a measuring stick of your level of personal development within yourself. And I don't think you can succeed at mastery of any area of your life without mastery of yourself, your emotions, your mind, the mind, body, and energy. And so you're teaching people how to master your body, mind, and energy. And as a result of that, because money is such a measuring stick, I mean, it's kind of hard to measure love. It's kind of hard to measure health. I mean, you can measure those things and, if you decide like what that means to you, but you've got to put those parameters out there. You've got to say, well, love to me means that I'm engaged and I have or love to me means I'm married, or, right. A dollar is a dollar. And so it's, I like what you're saying, because it's about changing your life. It's about changing your being. It's about becoming all that you are and fully fulfilled and reaching your full potential, but using money as a mechanism.
It's just
not a mechanism, but money as a measuring, medium.
I mean, for me, like I said, I just wanted a way in.
Yeah.
Right. After we initially launched that program, I closed it out for a year and change before I let people back in again. And we spent a year getting case studies, getting testimonials, getting proof of the pudding.
Yeah.
Since then, now people can sort of come in. Now we still interview, especially for the mastermind level. I don't let anybody in that's not been personally interviewed by me. But, we've got a level of certainty now. We're not telling fairy tales here. People have gone from 0 to 6, 7 figures. We've seen it happen using these principles. We've seen that the level of agency that they're able to demonstrate in saying, I've gone from here to here, they can then direct, because one of the things I teach a lot is that everything's coming as a reflection of what's happening internally. So then when people do face challenges in their life, they're not looking into a lens of blame. They're saying, okay, well, this is how this is showing up. The environment does not lie as to what's happening internally. So I can then look inside and say, okay, is it my intention? Am I choosing my outcome, or is this an unconscious program that's playing out?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the actual outcome that I want? Check. What's the emotional state that relates to that outcome that I want versus where I am now? What's the difference between the two? What actions can I take to choose a different emotional state? Done. What mental film am I running? What am I front running mentally? What am I visualizing accidentally? What am I mentally rehearsing from an unconscious space? Can I shift that to a conscious mental rehearsal of what I desire? Yes. Okay. Can I show up today with a level of certainty that demonstrates my faith in this actually showing up? Can I live gratefully, knowing that it's already here and waiting for me, not me waiting for it? And what can I do today to demonstrate that?
Yes.
Regardless of what it is,
Beautiful.
whether it's health, whether it's love, whether it's money, whether it's purpose, it doesn't matter what it is. The rules of the universe don't change just because we don't like what's shown up. We need to go back to the rule book and say, okay, how can I line up with this specifically so that I can have the outcome that I intend to create in my life?
I love it. I love it. And you're teaching people how to do that. And I have a special announcement.
Oh, can you make the announcement now?
So you've already helped me manifest a new house.
I did.
So I'm always keeping track of the time, making sure that, we don't go over an hour. And so I just, was like, okay, where are we at time? And so as I was looking at my phone, because it's on silent, do not disturb. So I wouldn't have gotten any text messages or any phone calls or anything. Yeah. And so as I'm checking the time, I see that I have received a text message. And the text message says, "You are recorded. You are the proud owner of a new home. Congratulations." So during this call, 13 minutes ago.
Nice.
I just met you. Helped me manifest.
Thank you. I'm going to take some of that good mojo karma and rub it on my belly.
Yes. So, and it is kind of funny because I told myself at the beginning of this day that, I had these 2 meetings. I had my coach call at 11 and I had my podcast at 2. And I'm like, we are going to be closed sometime during my podcast. I even said that. I mean, I totally said that. Nice. We're going to be closing right during this podcast. So isn't it interesting? We set the, somehow or another, I had this unconscious intention that it was going to happen.
Wonderful. Yummy.
So kind of getting back, I had to make that. That's a live situation here. So I had to.
Live from our studio.
So, all right. So like getting back to, so everything, just to recap, is important. It's just that, money is one of the things that helps us to get in, and so let's get into our choices, our choices, because a lot of people, especially during this day and age where, we're all kind of, some people are feeling a little robbed of some of their choices right now. Mm-hmm. And, so can you honestly say that we always have a choice?
Yes, but sometimes it's going to be harder than other times. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also, and this always comes down to your belief systems. You also have to look at the different levels at which we make choice. If you speak to a Buddhist, for example, they're going to say that they've made a choice from another life, or a Hindu, mm-hmm. for example. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're going to speak to somebody that doesn't believe in that, then they won't. But you might speak to someone that believes in the power of the unconscious mind, and that the unconscious mind has made the choice.
Right.
So is there always a choice? Yes. But here's a really cool thing. As you all know, when we're talking about the mind, the weight of that statement is also measured by your belief in that statement. So if you don't believe that you always have a choice, and I'm not saying believe, I mean really believe, like it's ingrained within you, then you won't always have the choice.
Right.
But there's a collective agreement of the choice always being yours to make that you can tap into. Power comes with responsibility, but there is the power then for you to create anything that you desire to create, mm-hmm. because you do always have a choice.
We can choose to choose.
Yes, basically.
Yeah. But it's sometimes, those choices are there. You said, like they're more, deeply, some of the choices are a little bit more deeply ingrained, and, yes. and just based on our belief. I mean, I even talked about this just a little bit, about, people who have had, significantly horrible things to experience in this life. And, mm-hmm. There's a belief system out there. Some will believe it. Some maybe will think it's crazy. But there is a belief system, like you said, that with that maybe we did choose that
Yeah.
before we got into this
Yeah,
life.
there's the whole world of soul contracts and soul choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or choices that we make through our higher self or another level of like a super consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I have views around that.
Uh-huh.
But what I think it really comes down to is also remembering the nature of time.
Yeah.
If we're looking back at something, then our real choice is, how do we want to be affected by a memory of it, not the thing itself,
Mm-hmm.
because the thing isn't happening now. Now, some people might say, well, that's, ignoring people's trauma or what they've been through. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that when something has happened in the past, the choice becomes, how do we want to be affected by a memory of the thing? Because it's now just a memory. And this is speaking to someone that has been, I went through child molestation and other things. So I'm not talking, willy-nilly and sort of glossing over things. I'm talking as someone that has actually walked this path myself and seen the truth of it, which is that all we have is, in truth, now. Outside of the now, we have our projections into the future and our memories of the past. And our memories of the past can't even be trusted anyway, but they can be reknown. I'm not talking about putting our head in the sand about the past either. I'm talking about taking the wisdom of those experiences and allowing that to empower us to make better choices going forward.
Yes, exactly. It could, yeah. So, are there things that are outside of our control?
I think everything's outside of our control, but everything's within the
Mm-hmm.
realm of our creation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Control is what we seek to do after the fact. Creation is what we do in advance. And the
Right.
mechanisms of the universe, I think, are a little bit outside of our human, our human understanding and our human management, because everything starts to play out against universal law and so on and so forth. So we can't control that. But what we can have dominion over is the choices that we make that precede the creation in the first place. We're always creating, and we always have a choice about what we create. How that creation shows up is outside of our control, I would say.
That is so true. That is so true. I always say too, I mean, your word is your power to create.
Mm-hmm.
But, because I always feel like ultimately, the more we keep our word with ourselves, the more that word has the power to create.
Mm-hmm.
But, ultimately, it's like about creating the state with which that's what we have control over, is really
Yeah.
just our state and how we're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing those things that are out of our control.
But the thing is that our world's responding to our state anyway. The inner world creates the outer world, whether that's
Yeah.
the combination of thoughts and feelings that then informs the actions that we make, or even
Mm-hmm.
the belief systems about the actions that we can make and
Mm-hmm.
take.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that we do have control over, we do have dominion over ourselves, is the magic key to unfolding our reality, because our reality is unfolding against the backdrop of who we are and how we're showing up. And we do have a choice with that. So we do have a
Mm-hmm.
choice in what we experience.
Cool. And so you wrote a book called The Money Game.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell us about that, and how do we play?
The money. So the money. You've got such a cheeky laugh. I love it. The money game is the instant manifestation stuff I was talking about earlier, and it's a series of steps that I put together, my experience over the last 20 years with manifestation, consciousness, visualization, and so on and so forth, to create a repeatable model for actually manifesting money. And by manifesting, I mean the traditionally understood idea of hocus pocus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Magic.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not magic. It's putting into place the conditions that facilitate the intention to manifest money showing up.
Oh, you
And
say
it's been repeated.
conditions.
Yeah. that it's been proving itself time and time again, time
Mm-hmm.
and time again. And whenever it doesn't work, it shows you the pieces to look to within ourselves to understand why it hasn't worked, so that it can work. And the money game also teaches you how to manifest relationships. If you want to get a promotion at work, that Once you understand the mechanics, you can apply it to anything, but it's the mechanics that allows us to manifest spontaneously.
I'm going to get a copy of that book. I like it. That
Well,
sounds
then just
great.
get an email over. We'll get one sent over to you in the post.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. This
Yeah.
is one of the perks of being a podcast host. Gifts in the mail.
We'll get
I
that
love
sorted
it.
out.
I love it. And
Mm.
so finally, I want to know about micro shifting. How,
Yeah.
how do you micro shift, and how does that empower people?
So microshifting is one of the aspects of my work that some people find to be the most impactful, because it sometimes creates the space for the growth or the transformation that they were lined up with, but there was something in the way. And so I know you're familiar with good old Tony Robbins, as I like to call him, T-Rob, although I've never met him
Yes.
personally to say that. So when T-Rob tells a story about when he says, if a plane takes off from London, I mean, I heard him say this in London, so he'd probably say something else if it was somewhere else. But, London, plane takes off from London heading to Buenos Aires down here. If it's just 2 degrees off but maintains that trajectory, it ends up in New York. 2 degrees, micro. So what we do with the micro shift is I call micro shifts a consistent series of baby steps consciously made in the pursuit of a deliberately chosen outcome.
Ooh.
So it's all of us, we're all divine, we're all magic. We can all make quantum leaps. But the evidence shows that quantum leaps aren't always held. Look at lottery winners, 90% of them go back to exactly where they were before within 5 years. Because in order to hold that experience, we need to be able to hold that state. And if we're not practiced in holding that state, all we need to do is go unconscious for a minute and we can snap back to exactly where we were before. But what if we change the baseline so that snapback had a much shorter distance? And that's what the micro shift facilitates. If I make a 1% chip away, but I do so consistently in a daily basis or even a weekly basis, I change my baseline. Even if I do have a massively horrible week, I can only go back 7 days.
Yeah.
I'm changing my baseline, expanding it and moving it. And I found that to be the thing that creates some of the biggest transformations in people. Not only because oftentimes we don't start because the target's so big, or we procrastinate, or we get into anxiety, or we get into fear, or we get into resistance with the mind. So when we're looking at shifting belief systems, if I try to go for something that's well outside my belief system, as well as I do, the mind's going to reject it. It doesn't hold. If I chip away at that and reduce the resistance over time, presenting evidence that it's safe, presenting evidence that it's possible, when I then go for the bigger things, I've got a much stronger platform to go from. And that's essentially the idea of micro shifting in it. It's
I
everywhere.
love it. No, that's so rich. And, to me, it reminds me of a concept that I heard about, like these micro habits or something along that line, or, like improving like by just 1% a day.
Yeah.
But there's so much to that, because each time you make a tiny little shift, and I kind of equate this to like way back in the day when I used to do everything myself before I had my own graphic designer, before I had, back when I used to make CDs, when I printed those and burned them myself, shipped everything, so it's like, I didn't have any room left to manifest or create anything because I was doing all these things. But I said, if I could just get rid of one little thing. And so I was micro shifting my responsibilities to other things. But every single one of those little micro shifts created some more space, and created a new baseline of what I could accomplish that day. And before you knew it, I wasn't doing any of that stuff, and I was in a brand new place.
Exactly.
But it's also, it's rich for that. It's rich because it's building this new relationship with consistency, which is so powerful. It's building a new relationship with your self-esteem and your self-confidence, because you're doing something to improve yourself every single day. So I love that
as well. It allows momentum as well. Because with the micro shifting, we layer in something I call minimum deliverables, which is asking myself, what is something that I know I can do today?
Yeah.
So, and I do this with tasks all the time, even ones where I don't necessarily need to. I just say, what's one thing that I can do? I know I can do that. Even if it's just, and I've seen this in people's life, and I say, look, you're struggling with self-love. just put a pen by your bed. No journal, just a pen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now pick up that pen and put it down. Pick up that pen and put it down. Now just go and buy a journal. Just look at it every day. Look at it for a minute. Don't even write on it. But the momentum starts. The resistance starts to drop. And then before you know it, they're journaling for an hour every day.
Yes,
Or
exactly.
they've written down those 5 ideas. Or they're just looking. And we always ask for something that's well within our resistance band to build that momentum. So that by the time we hit where the resistance is, the momentum is moving forward in such a way that we burst through it and get to the other side.
Yeah, like, well, when I was seeing weight loss clients, and I put them through this 12-week program, and one of the weeks is exercise. And I say, okay, this week I want you to exercise for 30 seconds a day. There's 30 seconds? Don't you mean 30 minutes? I'm not going to get anything out of 30 seconds. And I'm like, well, are you exercising now? No. So start with 30 seconds. See, I mean, if you go for a minute, that's fine. You're not breaking any rules, but you got to at least do 30 seconds.
Yeah. And just develop that relationship and allow the habit to form around actually exercising.
Just, you might find that, you'll increase it to a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. So yeah, the momentum. So, all right. Well, this has been so fun. I am just really enjoying this whole conversation here, but I know you've got back to back all kinds of people to see and things to do and millionaires to make. And so this has just been so enjoyable. So what are you giving us?
I'm racking my brain as to what the most effective thing would. I tell you what I do.
Well, I know one thing you did mention. I went ahead and got myself a copy. I signed up for it, so I don't know if this is the thing. Okay. So maybe you want to come up with a different thing. I don't know, but this one had to do with something along the lines of a series of short teachings on universal law. Was that the thing? Okay,
we can do that. That's a really cool thing.
Okay.
That's a groovy thing. Have you had a chance to check any of them out? Have you had a chance to check anything out?
All I did was I typed in my email address. It was really easy, and it brought me to a page with the first video. And I got so much on my plate. I haven't actually watched the first video, but it looks cool.
I just wanted to make sure. We can go ahead and do that. We can go ahead and give them that. So it's dreamwithdan.com/laws. And there's about, I think it's about 11 universal laws specifically around abundance and how to use those universal laws specifically to creating more abundance in your life.
Ooh, that is an abundance of teachings. I love it.
And they're really short as well. They're like, the longest of them might be 5 minutes. They're really not long at all. They're like normally between like 2.5 and 4 minutes long. So they're really sharp to the point. You can do one a day and apply it and have fun with it.
Ooh, I love it. So that is at dreamwithdan.com/laws.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, any last minute final words? I mean, this has just been an abundance of great information and great energy. And I really enjoyed our conversation. Any last little thing to leave us with here besides, I mean, you've already given us so much, but just the final note, the crescendo.
What's one small thing that you can't fail at starting doing today, no matter how small, even if it's just putting a pen by your bed? What's one small thing that you can do? Make that micro shift. And remember that what we create comes as a result of who we are. So what's one small thing that you can do today to step more closely into alignment with the version of you that's already experiencing what you want?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being a guest today on the Power of Your Mind podcast. Yes.
Thank you for having me. Thank you,
listeners, for always being here. And be sure to check out what Dan is giving you today at dreamwithdan.com/laws. And we'll see you next time.